Jazzcast Pros.
Hey there, my graceful grinders and totally uniquers. Have you ever wondered why you react the way you do? Are you looking to understand your inner self a little better? Are you ready to dive deep into your own personal self-awareness? Well, understanding what makes you tick is the first step to unlocking your true potential. I'd like to invite you to join me on this journey of self-discovery and learn how to break free from your emotional loops. I'm your executive coach, Dr. Pamela Brown-Grinion, President and CEO of Totally Unique Educational Consultants, LLC, and host of the Grace and Grind podcast. Welcome to another wonderful episode. And today we are going to be talking about the importance of self-awareness and its role in your personal growth and the concept of negative emotional loops and the impact that they have on your life.
And how did I get here? Well, interesting story. My girlfriend kind of gave me a challenge without saying I challenged you. And she told me that I was afraid of commitment, not to other people, but to myself. And I realized that she was telling the truth. So I challenged myself to overcome that and show up every day. So I did a 7-day free group coaching on Facebook and TikTok. And now we're going to whittle it down to Monday through Friday because I do need to have some time to care for the things that I need to care for. I'm sure you guys understand. And I know you missed me on the weekend. I missed you guys too, but duty called and I had to answer the call. And so you have to be intelligent about the way that you spend your time, right? And be responsible with balance, right? And so I needed to attend to some things. So I did. Now, let me just say, good morning, Don. Let me just say that if you are here in this space, this is a space for you to reclaim you. This is a space for you to connect for the very first time or reconnect with yourself if you need to. This is a place where you find yourself again or find yourself for the first time. This is a space where you go inward and work on, with intentionality, work on changing your behavioral responses to the traumatic experiences in your life. This is the place where you learn how to do that. So I don't say to people, come here and get healed, right? I say, come and learn how to change your behavioral responses to trauma. And in that process, somewhere along the way, you discover that some healing is taking place. Okay? Because I'm not a healer. But I am very adept and very astute and very knowledgeable about how to take people on a journey to pay attention to those messages that they get from their body, to help you to listen to how your internal self speaks to you so that you can understand what makes you tick and what makes you talk and what are the triggers for both. Okay. So this is that place. If you are here for any other reason, you're in the wrong room. Don't even waste your time. Now, I'm not uninviting you because I think this space is good for everyone, but it's a space where you do self-work. It's a space where you have to be committed to you, and it's a space where you have to go inward in order to do any of these things that I am telling you that, or coaching you on what to do. Okay? This is that space. So with that being said, I'm going to give you some science and I'm going to give you some trauma-informed perspective, and we're going to combine it together with emotional etiquette and talk to you about interrupting the negative emotional loops. Now, on one of the days, we talked about how to get yourself from having an unstuck mindset. And then the next day I talked about what are the steps to becoming unstuck, right? The very first thing we talked about was self-awareness. So we broke down self-awareness in 2 days. We talked about all the steps for self-awareness. I'm going to give you a recap just to be on the safe side. All right. So self-awareness, we talked about honoring your nervous system first and understanding that your body feels things that are going on before they even reach your mind. Your body feels when you are in a situation where you feel unsafe or threatened or something that is bringing anxiety or fear, that your body senses it and sends your brain signals, right? You may feel a heightened sensation of some type of emotion. So you feel it in your body first. And that's why honoring your nervous system first is key, because that's how you know how your triggers impact you. Okay. Or if something is a trigger. And I challenged you to ask yourself, what is my body trying to protect me from right now? And what is the message that my body is trying to communicate to me? Number 2, I ask you to understand your emotional origin story. Where did your beliefs about yourself come from? Who told you that? Who told you that? And why do you believe it? And with all the years that you've lived, because most of us on here are in our 50s, and I keep saying we're in our 3rd and 4th quarter. So you've lived a lot of life. So you know if these things are true about you or not by now, hopefully, right? And if they're not true, then you have to dispel them and you have to get rid of them. And you can't govern your life by untruths that were put on you by people in your life, your mother, your father, your siblings, right? And I shared my story that I was told that I was an oops baby and that I wasn't wanted at the time when I was born, and that just all of those things that people say, and not trying to intentionally hurt you, but it is hurtful. And I internalized that. And for a long time, I had thoughts and a lot of beliefs that I was unloved. And that's why a lot of things happened to me as a little girl. And so I challenge you to ask yourself, whose voice shaped your beliefs? And are they yours? Are they yours? Okay. Number 3, to identify your emotional etiquette patterns. And by that, I mean emotional awareness, emotional integrity, and emotional responsibility. And I challenge you to ask yourself, is this my wound speaking or is this my wisdom? Because most times our wound speaks before our wisdom does. Okay. So I challenge you to ask yourself, when you're feeling these things, is it your wound or your wisdom speaking? Number 4, challenge the beliefs that trauma has built. And if it's not happening right now, then don't live by it right now. If it's not happening to you in this season, in this moment, Layla, God bless you. God bless you. That's my pup. This is real life. Okay. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Number 4, challenge the beliefs trauma built. And I ask you to come up with something that you can replace, an old belief that you can replace with something new that is indicative of what your life is reflective of today. And I said that mine was that my needs are not inconvenient. They are necessary. Okay. They're necessary. And number 5, create safe internal boundaries for you. Internal boundaries. Okay. Internal boundaries that protect you while you're on your journey to changing your behavioral responses to your trauma. And I challenged you by saying that you should say aloud, I will no longer abandon myself to make others comfortable. I will no longer abandon myself to make other people comfortable. Good morning, TikTok fam. Good morning, Facebook. Thank you for joining, best friend. Hey, Connie. Thank you guys for being here today. So now we're going to get into what we're talking about today, interrupting the negative emotional loop, which was number 2. How do I shift my mindset, right? The first one was self-awareness, that you need to heal the emotional root, not just the symptoms, right? And I was telling you to identify the big turkey, whatever is in your roaster pan that takes up the most space in your emotional refrigerator. What is that thing? And then we're going to work on that. We're not going to focus on the symptoms. We're going to focus on the big turkey that we need to take out of the refrigerator. And by doing that, sometimes, most times, the symptoms fall off, right? So you got your big turkey shoved in there because you were tired Thanksgiving, right? Everybody came to your house, they ate, they packed plates, they left, and they left you with the mess, right? After you've cooked, you have no energy to clean. You just push things in a refrigerator, right? So the turkey's in there. You got your all the side things to go with the turkey. You got your giblet gravy. You got your cranberry sauce. You might have a little turkey meat on the side. You know, you might have some macaroni and cheese, whatever, just stuffed in there all around the roaster pan. Well, just by virtue of taking out the big turkey, have you ever taken anything out of the refrigerator and other things fell out? I have. Why? Because I didn't move any of the other things out of the way. I just wanted to get this out. All right. What I'm asking you to do is identify what's in your roaster pan, in your emotional refrigerator. What is that biggest thing that causes you the pain, the fear, the angst, the embarrassment, the unforgiveness, the shame, the grief, whatever your thing is? What is that thing? And understand that that thing is not going to be the same as that thing, okay? So I grew up in a household with myself and my 4 other siblings. We all have different stories and we all have different perspectives. Even though we all grew up in the same house, we all turned out differently. We all have our own stories about what we experienced. And when you share them, when I share them, like, what? When did it happen? What? Who? We all grew up in the same house, and we were all 5 different people, right? And I'm sure you guys can identify that in your family as well. You all grew up in the same house with the same people, the same leadership, but you all left with a different perspective, different stories, different outcomes. You're in different places in your life. How does that happen? Well, it's based on how you deal with your lived experiences, good and bad. How do you deal with your lived experiences? And most times when we have what we consider to be bad or negative experiences, the actual terminology is called ACEs, and that is an acronym for Adverse Childhood Experiences. Okay, I'm going to educate y'all on some stuff today that you may not know. I might get a little bit deep here, but just stay with me, okay? Adverse childhood experiences, and they are based on any traumatic experience that happened in your life from the age of birth to 18. What happened to you? How many different things happened to you? And there are 10 categories. I challenge you to go and look up an ACEs questionnaire and take the ACEs questionnaire. There are 10 questions. And if you have experienced any of those things, and everybody has at least one, but most people have multiple. On the questionnaire, I have 9 out of 10. Okay. Now, what does the ACEs score? What is it supposed to say based on the research? And oh, by the way, people of color have more ACEs than adverse childhood experiences than any other group. Okay, people of color. Now, let me just say that the research was not based on people of color. It was not based on people in the urban community. It was not based on people who were not college educated, and it was not based on middle class people. It was not based on impoverished people. It was based on college educated suburban people with middle class incomes and not people of color. Okay. Not people of color. So to find that people of color have more ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, than any other group is astounding. Okay. Now, what does ACEs tell us? ACEs is supposed to tell us, or what the research says ACEs indicates, is that if you have more than 6 ACEs, it's highly likely that you will have difficulty keeping a job. You will have health problems. You will probably not likely excel in education. You will more than likely have a higher percentage of being involved with juvenile justice system, or, being involved in illegal activities. Okay. It's highly likely that people with more ACEs commit suicide. So there are a lot of things, right? Now, why am I bringing that up? Because I told you that I have 9 out of 10 ACEs. And I'm sitting here as Dr. Pamela Brown-Grinion. I don't have high blood pressure. I haven't had a stroke, diabetes, all these things that it says. I haven't been involved with the justice system and all these things. So there are some outliers, right? But it is not because it just happened. It's because I had to change some things in my life. Now, I was unaware of anything about adverse childhood experiences or its supposed impact. I had no knowledge about this, right? I only became involved with ACEs once I became a trauma practitioner. And I was just so impressed with it, of what it said the outcome is supposed to be, and that I beat the odds, that I said, you know what? I want to help other people beat the odds. So regardless of what your life looked like and the things that you've gone through, you don't have to be a statistic that says you're going to have this, and this because you experienced this, and this before the age of 18, right? 9 out of 10 adverse childhood experiences. And I'm sitting here talking to you. Good morning, Tandalea. Talking to you, helping you as a trauma practitioner to change your behavioral responses to your trauma. Now, how do I know how to do that? Because I did it. Right? Now, can you go to therapy with a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a social worker? Yes, and I encourage that. Okay, but and however, that is not where not how I became healed and whole. That is not how. Okay, it was a lot of work. Good morning, Mars. It was a lot of personal work and inward work, because the counselors and the therapists are there to listen, but they can't do the work for you. They can't do the work for you. And if you're just going to go and just talk to them and not do the work, then you're just wasting a copay. Right? So what I've been telling you guys is that I can provide you with the information, but it's up to you to do the implementation. And I'm giving you key steps. I'm giving you the ingredient, the secret sauce, honey, the ingredients to how you can move from where you are in your negative emotional state or dealing with your past trauma. I'm giving you the ingredients for how do you change your behavioral responses to it so that it does not continue to choke the life out of you and rob you of your days, because that's what it does. So we're going to get into number 1, and we're talking about neuroplasticity. That's the scientific terminology for interrupting your negative emotional loop. Okay, it's you have to go inward. Okay, it's mind and brain work. Okay, mind and brain work, and you have to do the work. Okay, so number 1, your brain becomes what you repeat. That is the emotional loop. If you continuously tell yourself, and I'm going to use myself as an example. Why? Because I keep telling you guys, I'm my first student and I'm my first client. And what I did was I put myself in an emotional negative loop. I had no idea I was doing this. I never heard of an emotional negative loop, but I kept myself on this emotional hamster wheel of I can't do the things that I want to do because I'm not good enough because of my ACEs, my adverse childhood experiences. And I don't have to list them. If you're on most of these names that I'm seeing on here, you know me. And so you know what I've gone through. Okay. Now, what I did, which I didn't know that I was doing, was I kept feeding myself the lie that the trauma was presenting to me, the symptoms of the trauma, the symptoms. And I kept repeating, good morning, Dee. I kept repeating internally, The negative dialogue. I'm not good enough. People can see that I was abused. I don't have the confidence. My counselor said girls like me don't go to college. I just felt like I wore a scarlet letter on my forehead. And the symptoms of the trauma, not the trauma because it was no longer happening, the symptoms of the trauma is what kept me on this negative emotional loop. And I did not know how to break the cycle. Why? Because people don't teach you how to break the cycle. You watch people that are around you and how they deal with negative things that happen. And then you kind of copycat what they did because they're older, they're mature, they're wiser. They must have this thing down. And no one's saying that you have the power to control how these experiences show up in your life, how you respond to it, how they impact you, and how much power you give them. No one was saying that. And so my natural response was to just slide into the rabbit hole. I mean, zoop. And I stayed there for decades. What's the rabbit hole? The rabbit hole is that emotional place that you fall into. And it's deep, dark, black, ugly. There's no optimism, no hope. It's just hopelessness, despair. You can't. It's just negative. And it becomes so consuming that you end up, your emotional response is not fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It's the fifth one that I call you flop, which means you're paralyzed in life. And so you don't do anything. You don't do anything. And we allow the Python syndrome of life. When life is lifing and it feels like life is choking the very life out of you because you're just so bound with trauma that you feel paralyzed and you can't move. That's what happens in the rabbit hole. And you're not down there by yourself. It feels lonely and isolated. But oh baby, you got some friends and family members and husbands and cousins and all kind of people down in the rabbit hole with you, right? But it's still a very lonely and isolating place. And you feel like let me make it personal. I felt like I was the only one that had ever gone through those things. I felt like nobody understood. I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I felt like this only I could get myself out of this, but I didn't know how. I wanted to, but I felt like this is how I was supposed to live because these things happened to me. Live from the pit of hell. But I did not have anyone telling me that this is how you repair your negative emotional loops, because they didn't know they were living in negative emotional loops, their own selves. So there was no one there to tell me that this is not the way you handle life's situations when they come at you, right? When adversity comes at you, it's not that you freeze and say, I don't know how to handle it, so I'm not going to do anything. I don't have the information for it, so I'm not going to do anything. I don't have anybody to tap into to offer this wisdom and support, so I'm not going to do anything. You know why? Because it's not for anybody else to do. It's for you to do. It's for you to do. I did not get better by going through counseling. That is my truth. I'm not telling anybody to not go or to stop going. I'm telling you my truth. Counseling was not the way for me. It was self-work with my journal, meditation, prayer, and listening inwardly for the inner voice that I knew all of my life because I was taught that I have my own internal connection with God. But nobody told me how you turn it on. You're just telling me to pray without ceasing. He's around. He's God is everywhere. Okay, that's great. But how do I get there? And there wasn't conversation with all the sermons that I heard. There wasn't conversation about sitting still, being quiet, and listening. What I heard was you got to watch and pray. Okay. But nobody was teaching me how to be still and listen to the still small voice that is our internal spirit that gives us our guidance, our internal compass. Nobody was saying that was the force. Yeah, I was hearing you got the angel over here and you got the devil over here telling you what to do, but nobody was telling me, how do I quiet the noise of the enemy? And how do I make the voice of God louder in my internal spirit? How do I settle myself to understand that this is what I'm supposed to do? And so I'm challenging you that if you don't ever sit still and be quiet and listen inwardly, I'm telling you, you cannot get the answers to the questions that only you have the answer to, because I guarantee you they're in there. I'm telling you what I know. Okay. So your brain, we're going to go back to number one. Your brain becomes what you repeat. So if you continue to repeat internal dialogue that is negative and doesn't serve you well, I told you a million times already, your brain remembers, your internal self remembers, your soul remembers, your mind remembers, your spirit, your energy, your essence remembers all the things that you put yourself on repeat with. Okay. So repeated thoughts, especially negative ones, become well-built mental highways. What do I mean by that? I mean that your mental dialogue, your internal mental dialogue can shift you from the brick road that you're supposed to be on and shift you on to a different one. So my brick road is royal blue. Dorothy's brick road is yellow. But when I'm not firm in my own foundation of what my brick road and my path and what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm easily derailed to Dorothy's yellow brick road. And that's not my path. And that's not where I'm going. And that's not who I'm going to see. But when you are not firm and sound and you don't understand that these internal, mental, negative, emotional loops can derail you because you're not grounded, you're easily distracted. You're easily disrailed. You're easily taken off your own course. And you can get lost for years. For years. Just kind of flying in the wind like a kite. For years, if you're not grounded and you don't understand that your negative thoughts that you repeat can take you off course. Okay? Your brain defaults to the path it knows. Remember, I told you that the brain is a muscle just like these, just like this. Your brain is a muscle. And whatever you feed your brain is what it's going to remember. So if you repeatedly say to yourself that I can't do it, well, guess what? You cannot. Because your brain is going to remember, I took myself on this negative emotional mental loop with college. I wanted to go to college. I was accepted into college and HBCU. But because I kept replaying in my brain that girls like you, Pam, don't go to college, I didn't even know what that meant. But it had such an impact on me that I didn't go to college until I was almost 40 years old. Let me back up. I tried college multiple times, but I couldn't do college because I kept derailing onto another path. Why? Because I kept repeating in my brain that girls like me don't go to college. To the point, and so much so that my brain remembered it. And so every time I tried to go to college, I failed or I dropped out. And then I ended up with those huge college expenses that you get because you don't drop on time and you don't drop properly. And so you have a consequence because you didn't handle that right. Well, I didn't know how to handle it. And so therefore I had consequences and I was derailed because I wasn't firm in my understanding of the impact of these negative emotional loops. I did not understand that my brain is the super highway to where I need to go and where I wanted to go. I didn't understand that I had the power to control. I didn't understand that. And so that is why being on these lives at 8 a.m. is so critical, because if you were like me and there weren't people in your home telling you that the way that you overcome your adverse childhood experiences and the way that you shift your behavioral responses to your trauma is all up to you, if you didn't get that, you should be here every day, every morning. You should be here. You should be here. You should be telling a friend. You should be telling somebody right now, because we're still on point 1, to come on over here and get on this live, because if you're stuck, Dr. Pam is going to help you get unstuck. Now, let me back up. She's going to give you the information, but it's up to you to do the implementation. But if you want to be unstuck, you can get unstuck. You do not have to live in the past with your trauma that is no longer happening to you today. You do not have to. Okay? Also, let me encourage your souls and encourage your spirits and tell you that you are not broken because you're stuck. You're not broken. You're not broken. Hey, Jessica. Welcome back, darling. Long time no see. You are not stuck because you replay this negative emotional loop. You're not stuck. You're just rehearsing an old story. And it's no longer your story. Understand me when I say that, people. It is no longer your story. It's no longer your story. I am no longer in an environment or a state where I'm being abused every day. That's not my story anymore. So why am I going to continue to play this negative loop in my head of something that happened a long time ago? Right? Why am I going to keep myself held captive in bondage by the past that's no longer happening to me today? Why would I do that to myself? Especially when I'm on here telling you that you don't have to. I'm telling you, you don't have to. How do I know? Because I'm unstuck. I'm unstuck and I'm unbothered. Ooh, that's a book title. Somebody put that in the chat. I'm unstuck and I'm unbothered by that stuff. I'm going to write that down myself because I think I just got something here. Unstuck and unbothered. Right? I'm unstuck and unbothered, baby. And you can be too. But you have to do the work, and you can't be afraid of the work, okay?
All right, my graceful grinders and totally uniquers, that is all we have time for today. I hope that you've enjoyed that discussion about self-awareness and negative emotional loops. Next episode, we are going to be talking about how to interrupt those negative patterns that you've created to get you off of the emotional hamster wheel. And I'm going to offer some personal stories and insights about how to illustrate the impact of your self-awareness and your emotional control. You know what I'm going to say next. Always remember that you have the power to control how your light shows up in your life, how much power you give it, how much impact you have, and how you respond to it. So with that being said, I want you to go and create your totally unique day on purpose. Until next time, ta-ta for now.